Welcome and welcome back to the channel, where today I'm immediately jumping from celebrating the anniversary of my old web series concept to celebrating the anniversary of a fandom that's very near and dear to my heart. June 26, 2004 is of course the release date for Yume Nikki, an RPG Maker horror classic about exploring the dream world, and it may just be one of, if not my favorite game of all time. In honor of this special occasion, I'll be taking you through the process of turning the main character Madotsuki into a Pullip MIO doll, a customizable kit allowing the artist to create their own interpretation of the famous Korean fashion doll line using a base stripped down to its bare essentials. Tsumugi, I need your cosplay talent so I can manifest all my non-existent crafting and makeup skills to make this project happen. Come along with me as I embark on this endeavor, and let's start! Included in the box of every Pullip make-it-own kit, you get the doll's naked body, face and head parts, a pair of transparent eye chips that we won't be using, a scary looking mechanism to glue said eyes in, which you can see I already took the liberty of doing beforehand with eye chips I bought from Etsy seller 𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚕𝚔, a pair of eyelids, a pair of rectangular plastic doohickeys that are called wink bars on the packaging, a pair of eyelashes, and lastly 6 screws, 3 large and 3 small. The Pullip dolls come in 5 different skin tones, and there are other MIO kits for different models in the same line, which are 𝚘𝚘𝚎, 𝚘𝚎𝚒𝚘, and 𝚘𝚘𝚎, although it must be said that these kits are only available in the natural skin tone colorway. As you can see, I've made quite a bit of progress on this doll already, so basically what's left for me to do is her face up and decorating her top. Let's begin with the face, although there are some necessary steps to take beforehand. I'll be using primarily chalk pastels to give Madotsuki her face, and they won't stick to the smooth plastic without some kind of sealant for creating a surface to draw on. There's a variety of products to choose from, with my preferred sealant being Mr. Super Clear. Take extra precautions if you do decide to use this brand, because this stuff is more toxic than the has-been hotel fandom. So spray in a well-ventilated area and wear respirator masks so there's no risk that anyone will be breathing it in, and wait 30 minutes to give it plenty of time to dry and for the fumes to evaporate. Make sure your weather conditions are ideal before spraying any doll parts, because humid weather will cause it to fail, and you want to give this particular sealant every chance of success it has because it's pretty expensive. I know Nicole's Dreams has a tutorial about keeping the doll parts you need to spray in a toaster oven if waiting for the weather to change isn't an option for you, but if all of these sound like things you don't want to compromise on, you can research alternatives to Mr. Super Clear that are easier to use and less toxic, or try an acrylic paint only face up. When you reach a point when you're not able to build up any more color, or if you want to save your progress before moving on to another step of the face up, or when you're finally ready to call it done, hit it with another layer of sealant and wait another 30 minutes. If you're new to my channel, you may not realize this video is very different from my usual content. Going through my past uploads, speed paints are overwhelmingly represented, so where did this rando doll customizing video come from? Believe it or not, I actually started working on this project as a hobby back in 2015. Whoa! But I never got to finish it because after I bought the clothes and inside eyes I needed to create Madotsuki and glued the chips into her iMac, I wasn't able to do her face up because the temperature had suddenly changed and I was afraid it would ruin my sealant. Then once I was ready to proceed, I lost my can of MSC. But I finally found it! It was hiding in the China cabinet all along! So if I'm going to finish this project I unintentionally abandoned, I might as well do it in honor of Yume Nikki's 20th anniversary, right? This isn't my first rodeo giving a doll a face-up, as shortly before I started buying materials to create Madotsuki, I had already made a custom pull-up of one of my friend's webcomic OCs, which coincidentally also takes place in a dream world. And when I took her down to look at the face-up, I was kind of panicking because I thought all the colors rubbed off, until I looked at the photos I took right after I first completed her and realized, nope, I really did do that bad of a job customizing her. Her lips turned out okay, but there's like nothing on her cheeks or eyelids at all. Fast forward to today, where I've long been a connoisseur of doll customizing channels like Delightful, Doll Motion, The Doll Fairy, Moonlight Jewel, Mozekito, and Hextian, and now had a lot more secondhand knowledge about doll face-ups than I did before. When I first started customizing Pullips, I wasn't aware of the doll customizing community, and only got interested in the make-it-own kits because I wanted my own Pullips. Keep in mind, this was around the same time that their Princess Sapphire and Sailor Moon dolls were being released, but I couldn't afford them, so I'd save a lot more money just by getting what I could create myself. Now, will I be able to create dolls that reach the same level of professionalism and beauty as the artists whose channels I watch? Well, that's another story. This is only my second face-up, guys. Manage your expectations accordingly. To give you guys a little peek behind the curtain, I originally planned to commemorate Yume Nikki's 20th anniversary on my channel in 2 parts. The first part would be this face-up, and the second part would be a speed paint of some fan art for the game. I had to ditch my speed paint plans though, but it wasn't because I couldn't think of what to draw. Quite the opposite actually. I had so many different ideas that I really loved, and I wasn't able to settle on just one, but I didn't have enough time to draw all of them. So my solution was to dial back my ambitions and just focus on making the doll. Considering how much anxiety I was having to get my videos for the Cage Underworld done before the 26th, having one less video to make for this deadline was a big weight off my shoulders. By the way, shout out to YouTube user Gobo, who keeps the fandom alive with their weird and buttery smooth animations, because I'm sure they're gonna make something amazing for the game's 20th birthday. And whether or not you're a fan of Yume Nikki, I highly recommend you check out their videos because they're just so much fun. I never knew I needed to see Sekkon Masada-sensei dancing like a mad fool to music for Battle Block Theater, but apparently Gobo did! I hope you'll indulge me for a bit as I talk about my experiences with Yume Nikki for this portion of the video. I first discovered the game back in 2012 after I went down an RPG Maker rabbit hole when some of my friends that were part of a larger role-playing, fic writing, and fandom site we were on made an actual game based on our adventures using the program. At the time, I always believed that video games could only be made using proprietary software for some reason, so this opened up a whole new world for me that I was very enthusiastic to learn more about. And when I saw Yume Nikki being listed as an example of games developed in RPG Maker, I couldn't stop thinking about it from the moment I first saw it. I don't remember exactly when I started playing it, but I know for certain that I finished it on January 23rd, 2013. And after making it to the ending, I cried for 3 days, so that was an experience I'll never forget. Yume Nikki is honestly part of my favorite genre of horror. Everything about the game is so uncanny and surreal and makes you feel really uncomfortable. You never have a clear image of what's going on, what you're looking at, and where things are going to end up, and I find I'm really drawn towards those kind of aesthetics than traditional monsters and slasher movie villain fare. I did play a little bit of the 3D reimagining Yume Nikki Dream Diary that came out in 2018. I know a lot of people didn't like it, and honestly I haven't gotten far enough into the game to form an opinion on it, but considering so much of the original game has lived up to the player's interpretation, I'm always open to seeing different spins on the same concept, and honestly it was one of the first games I bought for my Switch. That being said, I do think it's cruel that the Switch got a reboot of Yume Nikki and not the original. Especially since we have so many other horror adventure games on the system that are in the same niche as Yume Nikki, if not directly inspired by it. Like Eve, The Witch's House, Mad Father, I could go on and on. I don't know why Yume Nikki 04 hasn't gotten an official release for non-PC gamers, but it feels like such a glaring oversight. Obviously, I'm making this video before the 26th, so I really hope this rant will age badly and the 20th anniversary edition of the original RPG Maker classic Shadow drops on the eShop. Can you tell I'm huffing copium at this point? Of course, some people might think this is a dumb thing to wish for, since you can play both the fan-lated game and the official Steam release for completely free when you would have to purchase the original game if it was ported to another console, which is a very valid point, but for me personally, owning this game on my Switch would be a literal dream come true. No pun intended. Look at that! While I was talking, the face-up is complete! I didn't have any acrylic paint or watercolor pencils, so this is the best I was able to do for her eyebrows with my Prismacolors, and I wasn't able to add any other details to her face besides blushing and contouring. I'm a little torn about whether or not the final result came out too splotchy. In certain angles she looks really soft and pretty, while in some lighting her face looks like mine after I eat Airhead's candy. It's worth mentioning that when you steal your pigments with MSC, the colors end up looking darker, but for the most part I still think the face is decent given the tools I had on hand. If you were better prepared than I was, you'd probably add some gloss varnish to her lips for some added realism, although I didn't want Madotsuki to look like she had any makeup on her, so sometimes the less is more approach really is better. I also colored in her eyelids off camera. Once you completed the painting process, you can glue the eyelashes to the undersides of the lids. I'm using the ones that came with the kit, but you can also use store-bought fake lashes. Just make sure to remove any adhesive that may already be on there, and trim them down to be narrower so the strip will fit within the 2 rectangular indents. At this point, you might as well glue the eye chips inside the iMac, whether you bought some like I did, or made your own from scratch, or by customizing the transparent ones provided, but obviously I already did that back when I first started this project, so thanks for doing me a solid, 18-year-old me! Once all the glue is dry, gently put the eyelids inside the faceplate, making sure to slide the plastic pegs on either side in the head's respective slots. The two springs on the inmost corner of the eyelids should be right next to each other and facing upwards towards the doll's forehead. Using the 3 small screws, attach the 𝚑𝚒𝚒𝚘𝚘 to the back of the face as tightly as possible, lining it up so the half with 2 holes are on the top and the half with the single hole is on the bottom. Don't take that out of context. Be careful, as this part can be finicky.
Oh my god.
Once that's done, take the springs on top of the eyelids and hook the loops on the ends of them on top of the 𝚑𝚒𝚒𝚑𝚑 pegs. At the risk of stating the obvious, put the left spring on the left peg and the right spring on the right, don't go crisscrossing them. The last step before uniting the doll's face with the rest of her body is to add the wink bars inside the rectangular slots on the top of the 𝚑𝚒𝚒𝚑, positioned so the diagonal bars in the middle are facing away from each other. Lastly, twist the net peg inside the faceplate's hole as tightly as you can, making sure there are no gaps, and use the remaining 3 large screws to connect the 2 halves of her head together. Make sure you don't accidentally bend the eyelashes during this step. Done! Let's see how she looks with the rest of her outfit now. I bought all these clothes beforehand when I first started this project 9 years ago. The shoes and stockings are made specifically for Pullip dolls. The skirt originally belonged to a Barbie doll, and I'm pretty sure this sweater was made for a doll from the A-Zone line. Speaking of the sweater, to really make this doll look like Madotsuki, we have to add the trademark window pattern on the front. I considered a bunch of different methods on how to make this design, micro crochet, sewing, fabric paint, and in the end I realized the best option was to use some transfer paper. After measuring out how long and wide the design needs to be, I replicated it in Clip Studio Paint and printed multiples of them out on my transfer paper so I could have plenty of test pieces in case I miscut anything, especially since the backing isn't transparent. I replicated the design based on how it looks in the original game, but since the top I bought for Madotsuki is a hoodie with a pocket and drawstrings, which is what she wears in the manga, rather than the turtleneck she's usually depicted in, it probably would have been more accurate for me to make the window pattern based on how it looked in the manga, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I chose to go with a branded transfer paper that didn't require any heat, so applying it to the sweater was as simple as peeling it off and sticking it on. Now, the instructions specifically tell you not to do what I'm doing right now. You're supposed to anchor a corner of the transfer paper onto the surface you're applying it to first, and then gradually peel it off the backing while smoothing it down. But honestly, this design is so small that it was easier for me to just peel it off and stick it all on the same time. Finally, I took a piece of scrap fabric to mush the sticker against the top to ensure it stays on. Try not to do this with your bare hands, and don't try to move them at all when you do this step, otherwise the ink will smudge. It's such a simple addition, but it really makes this doll feel like she is Madotsuki. I want to make one last change to her wig. I was able to find a Pullip wig that was already in the right color and hairstyle, but the ribbons are where I'm going to be overly pedantic. If you look really closely at Madotsuki's in-game sprite, you can see that the ties for her braids are red, while the ribbons that came with the wig are black. I don't have any spare ribbon lying around, so I did have to gleep some red hair ribbons from another doll I had in my collection and tie them into bows, which I definitely did and spent hours upon hours trying to figure out how to do. 3 YouTube tutorials later, the wig is looking just the way I wanted. With that, Madotsuki is complete! I know this video is a departure from my normal content, but I really wanted to make sure I finished this project in time for Yume Nikki's 20th anniversary and share my progress with you all while talking about this game I love so much. Who knows, it might be fun once in a while to experiment with posting other kinds of art besides just drawing. What do you all think? At any rate, it's time for me to shut this video down. Make sure to give boba cats some pets, snacks, and playtime before you log out, and head to the description of this video to find links for every other corner of cyberspace I'm on. Thanks for letting me chat with you, and until next time, never give up on your dreams. Keep sleeping.